Looks good with this.
I know.
Hey guys, happy Monday again. Today is Monday, December 10th, my first show of the week, other than Manic Monday. I'm here with my friend, are we ready? Nilka
Hi,
Beltrán, Beltran, Nikki, Nilki, you tell me the nicknames. She's amazing. She got me this hat. You can't see it in the light, but it says naughty. So let us know, Ben Gilbert's on. Let us know you can hear us or see us. I mean, come on, you know I'm gonna wear a hat. If somebody buys me one, look at that cool hat on there. So we got a thumbs up, they can hear us, that's good. Colleen, happy holidays, Merry Christmas to you. Joseph Rosado. All right, so we've got people on, they can hear us, they can see us. They can obviously see the hat, it says naughty. All right, so thank you for coming on. I'm excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
All right.
I did bring that hat saying
She
nice.
did, look at that. It said nice on it first. But you know I'm naughty. Come on.
Yes.
All right, it kind of goes with my outfit. My hair is going to be a mess later. Colleen. So tell us a little bit about you. I'm very happy to have you on the show.
I'm very excited to be here also. And Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Well, what can I say? You know, Orlando, Florida.
We're crazy here. Where are you from?
I'm originally from San Juan, Puerto Rico. And I was born and raised there for 18 years.
So you have an interesting background. Tell us a little bit about it. I didn't share the bio because I like to sometimes have you tell it. Hi, Susie. Hey, Anna. Let us, give us kind of an insight into you and your growing up because you've got a great story there.
Well, I grew up in Puerto Rico and, I grew up basically in the 80s. Tough time in Puerto Rico because, as everybody knows, the 80s were those changing times for organizations and government and all of that. But as a young child, my parents were middle class and they put me through private school.
Oh, so you were in private school?
I did go to private school because in Puerto Rico, if you don't go to private school, you don't get the best education.
I got you.
So you do have to spend money to go to private school. And I did go to an all-English school. And over there,
Is that a requirement in Puerto Rico? And by the way, for those of you, it's funny. Some people actually still think that Puerto Rico is a foreign country. It's part of the United States, folks. I hate to tell you. Here you go.
Yes.
So was that a requirement that you speak English over there? Because I see a lot of people who come from Puerto Rico that don't speak the language here in Orlando.
No, as a Spanish colony, basically Puerto Rico speaks Spanish. So after the Americanization, English was basically a requirement for people who wanted to grow. And my parents quickly knew that and put me through private school, but they specifically chose a private school that would teach an English curriculum. But
you also had an interesting, I read it, you have somebody in your background that was also, because we'll get to the real estate part, a real estate mogul over there, because that's what you put. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, my father's dad, my grandfather, which unfortunately I never met, he was a real estate mogul in Puerto Rico. He was called the Don Manolo, which, to get a Don
The
name.
Don Manolo?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Don, it's...
like king?
Well, Don means like a very respected gentleman. So if you think of KFC and you think of the Colonel, that's kind of like the status.
Oh, so I love it, like the Colonel.
Yeah, like
I
the
love
Colonel.
It. All right. And what is Manolo?
Manolo is his name.
Okay.
Manolo is his name. So Don Manolo established in Cataño, Puerto Rico. This is an adjacent city across the Bay of San Juan, of Old San Juan. So where if you think of the Bacardi factory, that's where my
language.
Yeah, that's where my dad established. My grandfather established his.
So he's a big real estate mogul in Puerto Rico.
In the Maine, yes.
All right, so you never got to know him.
No, I never got to meet him.
But he had a big life, which obviously was important enough for you to include in your bio. Why?
And my grandfather, it's kind of like a taboo in my family because he started with jukebox music business.
Music.
Yes.
Musica.
So he saw a way into a commercial business, establishing jukeboxes in bars and restaurants, and he maintained those jukeboxes and quickly moved into investing in that, whatever he capitalized, he started investing in property.
So music, like jukeboxes, like you guys remember.
You know,
Who's
like
old
the ones
enough
you
to
put a
remember?
nickel and
Some of these people are not old enough to even know what a jukebox is. But jukeboxes, you go to a restaurant or a bar and you put your coin in and you get to play your kind of, now it's CDs and now it's just streaming pretty much. But back in the day, that's where you heard music, usually in a bar or a restaurant.
Yeah, my grandfather, this is during the 1940s, actually, because, and I have to specify that because that's how my family background is. In the 1940s, this is after America, you know, the United States took over Puerto Rico, and they were basically in a process of establishing status in Puerto Rico, or deciding what Puerto Rico was going to be. So you have certain families in Puerto Rico who quickly, you know, decided what they wanted to become. But my grandfather decided to invest, and he kept investing in properties.
So he became real estate. He had the real estate bug, and he bought properties in Puerto Rico.
Cataño, Puerto Rico.
Now, did your dad? Is that your dad's dad?
That's my dad's dad.
So did your dad come into that, fall in love with that? Was he also an investor in properties? Did he become a real estate person after your grandfather?
My dad had a different mind. My dad was more of a builder, and he liked to invent things. And, you know, he decided the route of the military because my grandfather, as he became that don in the city, he became more stressed with people's needs. Because as a don, you know, you gain and provide also because you want to help the community.
So is he kind of like the godfather that everybody came to? You can have a hat like this, Al, by the way.
Well, I tell you what, if you were in jail, the call to make was my grandfather.
See, all right, so he was kind of like the go-to guy, the guy that everyone went to.
Yes.
But how did you learn this about him since you never met him? What was it that... So your father, obviously, he impacted him a lot. There were stories that your dad must have told that impressed you enough for it to be part of your psyche. It does not light up, John, but it does say nice if you go that way. That impressed you enough so it's still part of it, something that was important enough for you to share with me in your bio.
Well, you know, since I grew up, there were few conversations about my grandfather because as he endured more status in a city, he also took more work and stress. So he was always in and out of psychosis. So in his background, I have to talk about mental illness because my grandfather suffered from mental illness.
So he was depressed, anxious, anxiety. So these are some of the obstacles. The show is overcoming obstacles, right? So that's an obstacle that is strong enough and was talked enough about, or you remember enough that it's impacted you, like you're talking about it now and you've never even met your grandfather.
I never met my grandfather, but I had to bring it back to reality in my life because to define who I am, I have to go back to where I come from.
And were your parents like that? Were they both stressed out?
No.
No.
My parent, I see my father as a trade breaker because there were you see, my father committed suicide. My grandfather committed suicide, not my father.
Your grandfather, so the Don that we were talking about, he committed suicide. The mental illness, the pressure, whatever it was at the time, that was the doing that did him in.
At that time, after he settled in that city, he decided to expand to a new city where he bought new land, a lot amount of acres, where the deal turned out to be a scam. And
all right, so he got taken. So what happened is he had some, I'm paraphrasing. I don't know this whole story, but I'm assuming what happened is that he got taken. And so as the Don, he lost some money, probably lost money, lost influence. And so it was super difficult for him because it's hard for people to go from having power and having money and having authority to going to not having that respect and to actually being duped, which is what he was.
Or there's, you know, the challenge of, you know, overcoming it. And
why do you think that is important to you? Because you talk about it and you haven't met him. I find, to me, that's the most fascinating part of your back history is that your grandfather and the loss of him impacts you as a person now so much that we're talking about it during the first half of the show, and it was the first thing you talked about in your bio. Why?
Well, presently, I had to face some challenges myself, especially a scam in real estate. And that was the period when I had to go back to...
So you faced your own scam. You got taken advantage of.
Yes.
All right, so in the Orlando market?
Yes.
Okay, so was this during the crazy boom time, or?
This exactly happened. It was a boom for me because I was actually in my best years of real estate, and I was expanding into a network marketing business, expanding into other countries, when I learned that an investment I made in a real estate portfolio gone wrong because the person who was involved was actually being chased by the FBI all the way from Katrina years.
So tell me how that works. So you get the notifications. I think obstacles is the primary thought process of this show. So you're a real estate agent, you're a realtor, so you get involved in something and you think everything's hunky-dory, and then what happens when you get that call or you finally realize, oh my God, I don't have the money they're promising me? And a lot of times what we do is we've already spent the money we think we got, I'm just assuming, and then you've also gotten other people involved, and so it becomes this trickle-down effect. So yes. Is that what happened to you?
Well, it happened that during the flipping of properties, the market started changing, and I wasn't able to flip this last investment we had, me and my boyfriend at the time. And we decided to get creative. So we heard about, through my broker at the time, I heard about him investing in some portfolios, and I decided to take a chance, just to overcome one of my flips that wasn't really working out.
So the flip is, for people who don't know real estate, a flip is you want to invest, you buy the house, it probably needs some sort of at least cosmetic upgrade, and then you want to sell it for more because you're buying it usually cash, and then you want to sell it for more on the market because you're going to make it a little prettier, and there's usually a demand for it. But in this case, you were probably at the tail end of I'm guessing, you had some market issues and you couldn't flip it, so you're stuck on a house
that went down half the price.
That went down half the price. All right, so what happens to you after that? So you lose money, you lose the house, you lose what?
So me and my boyfriend decided to take a loan on this property so we could actually invest in this real estate portfolio. I decided to keep launching in the network marketing business because to me real estate was the means for me to do whatever I wanted. Real estate for me has always been that vehicle to create some kind of wealth so that I could move forward to my...
Which I believe it is. So anybody who's hearing her, I still think she believes that. Yes. It's just that particular decision or that particular group she was with
at the time, at the time it was a different Nikki, it was a different Nilka.
A different Nikki.
Yes, it was a person that was always chasing the deal. And when this happened to me, it kind of ground me because...
Well, it made everybody, I think, at the time, really, you had to catch your breath. And honestly, I think anybody who says they weren't caught off guard, they either had an inside track to what was going on, which not everybody did. We all got caught off guard by how quickly the market went and how quickly it impacted us.
Yes. And, and a lot of people lost properties or mortgages. It's harder when you lose the liquid because, like you said, you invest in flips in a cash capital, and then all of a sudden you're taking capital out to put somewhere else. Yep. And it was a big learning experience.
So what'd you do next? How did you overcome it? I think that's the big lesson. How did you go? Because a lot of people didn't. A lot of people didn't get back in the market. A lot of people didn't survive the market. On so many different levels. So how did you continue on? How did you make it through that? Because that's a giant obstacle. You're talking about your livelihood, your money, Then you've got a market that you're used to working in that's supposed to be good, and all of a sudden it's not good. So how did you come out of that?
Well, first of all, I had to face the grief. I had to grieve. So I took some time out.
Good for you.
Yeah, I took some time out to reflect, and this is where my grandfather's story started, resonating in my brain, because it was the first time in my life that I experienced depression, and I've never experienced depression. I was a very protected girl growing up. I live a very happy life, and to see a scammer take and rip me off of 5-year works with my boyfriend. It did hurt a lot.
Because it's depression, it's hurt, it's embarrassment, it's, oh my God, you want to kick yourself because you can't believe you believed that person.
Yeah, it's
there's
guilt.
so many guilt. Yeah, there's so many regret. There's so much going on, and yet you're still having to push through because you can't just live in that.
Yes, you're never the same. And but how do you overcome this? It's funny because the other day I see Ted like in a St. Jude's Children's Hospital commercial, and I saw that, and when I was going through this, I see, why am I suffering over this? There's bigger problems that other people have. So you suffer, you cry, and you mourn, but then you get up and you're just turned into a different person.
How did you do it? Was it faith? Was it like, how do you, because you say you did it, but it's still not easy. And I think a lot of people look at somebody like you, okay, you're beautiful, you're successful, you went through a hard time, and then, or people are like, oh, you've got a hat on, Ted, you must be successful. You can't make it up. So, but I think people don't know how to do it. They think they're going to fail, and once they fail, their life is over.
It's an attitude, and that's where you go back to your beginnings, where you come from, and you start thinking, who am I, and who are these people that surrounded me growing up, and why do I have this drive still? And at that point, I dropped everything, but I put myself closed doors. I cried for 6 months probably. I lost my faith. And then I was like, no, I have to go back and get up on my feet and start doing and creating what I know how to create.
Because it can go, everybody's got this, I call it's your change of trajectory. You've got this decision, this epiphany. So all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm going down this path of being sad, being depressed, being mournful, being regretful. But at some point you either continue down that path to God knows where, or you step up, which is what you did, and say, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah, enough. They say enough is enough. When when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Correct.
And what happens is there's a reinvention, and there's new ideas.
So what did you do? So you realize it, right? So you have the moment, you have the epiphany, you go, all right, I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to live in this negativity. So what's the first thing you do, or what are some of the first things you did? Because I think that's what people want to hear. They want to know, okay, how did Nikki get there? How did she take that first step?
Well, this gift of that, I always say there's a gift in a new day. And, I have to preach to my boyfriend, Jason, because at that time, he acted very different than me. I had to more, but he had to get back to action and recover. So what he did was he got a public insurance adjustance license, and it took me a year after he launched his own business to start getting in the sales and marketing for him. So what I did was launch his business in Texas. We gathered 10 accounts that were commercial accounts, and that was good enough to recover our investment that we had lost.
Because you're making positive steps. It might not be in the direction you envisioned at the time, but you're at least doing something positive and finally seeing some progress, right? Because his business is now beginning to grow. It's not the business you started out with.
It was one account, a $10 million account that got us back on.
That's awesome.
and reinvents us because he didn't come from the public insurance adjusting business.
Sure, he had to go out. At the time, we were all trying to figure out what to do, right?
Yeah.
So you're trying to figure out, okay, where are my talents? Where are my connections? You've built this entire business, all this infrastructure, and then you don't know what to do. You don't know who to reach out to, and you don't know how to monetize the connections you have. But Jason, is what you said, said, all right, I'm going to try this, and you guys were able to come out of it, pull out of it.
You know, he's great at what he does, but I'm great at making the calls and
Love it.
and getting the accounts. So that's what worked. And you know, and as soon as he recovered, then I was able to get my license back because I had let it expire.
Well, because nobody could afford to pay the dues, right? And then there was no business, so people were having a hard time. They were giving up this license that they had spent so much time. They were making it an act.
Yeah, I didn't want to lose the love for real estate because it's who I am.
Right.
And so I went back and got the real estate license, and this time I decided to do short sales and help people with the foreclosures and help people with, you know, the market. The market changed at that time. And slowly,
Did that feel good? Did it feel good that you were helping people out of a situation where you had already faced it yourself and now you're the one that's going, all right, I've got at least the real estate knowledge and unfortunately some of the personal experience of it, and now all of a sudden you're helping people who are facing some of the same things.
Yes, after I jailed the person who scammed me, I definitely went back and say, we gotta help these people because this is the biggest scam that probably America has endured. And it touched me in one way, but I'm sure it touched other people in another way. So you have to become part of that industry where you're doing and not taking. And if you're taking, then you need to go and look into your heart and maybe do some prayers, because
Lots of prayers.
Lots of prayers.
Or whatever you do. If you
Yes.
meditate,
Yes,
whatever it is that you do.
Send it.
So what is the market like now for you? So you're back. The market is good for you. You're back practicing real estate. Is your boyfriend still doing public adjusting work? Still has the
Yes.
company, right?
Yes,
But you're back doing your passion, what you
Yes.
love to do.
Yes.
And so how do you see the market right now? Because I hear a lot of people saying different things about how the market is. I mean, as a mortgage guy, the interest rates came down low for a bit. Now they crept up, then they go back. What do you think is going on in the market?
I think what's going on in the market is that it's what's always been going on with me. It's reinventing myself. And,
I agree with that.
And you know, and it's it doesn't matter what happens now. The worst already happened. So whatever happens in the market, you just have to be smart, follow the money, look what's happening in the economy, in the government, and study where our assets as a nation are, and you will learn that you could find ways and vehicles to get part of that.
I think that's the other thing. I think we have a big rental market here in Orlando, especially. Central Florida's rental market's out of control.
Yes.
So the rents are so high, and yet there's a whole group, the group that is renting those houses, or those apartments especially, that don't understand that they really could qualify for a home, but there's so much negativity attached to it. That age group saw their parents lose their homes, foreclosures, short sales, bankruptcies, and so they're very leery of getting into the market, but they're paying these astronomical amounts. I'm not cutting any of my apartment friends, but you're paying so much money for a rental that you are getting no equity in as you're paying off your mortgage.
I think Orlando is where it's at. You know, you look at this
agree.
city, and it's the second most visited city in the world, or in the nation. You know, right after Las Vegas. But when I say reinvent yourself, as a property owner, you need to start looking for ways to reinvent yourself also to cash in, because you know, whether it's an Airbnb or a place that gives you rental income, that's always a vehicle to step a little higher. You know, you just gotta become part of that changing market, or that changing these changing winds that we're experiencing.
So what do you think, what do you tell somebody who wants to get into let's say we've got a millennial, and I'm not picking on millennials, but hi Kat Brower. let's say we've got a millennial who is right now in an apartment. They're paying way more money than they should be paying, in my opinion. What do you tell them? How do you help them get from that fear to, all right, I can purchase my first home? What do you do when you're, because you must be dealing with a lot of those. I know on the loan side we are.
Well, we have the Lake Nona area full of millennials that are doing very well.
They are.
But there is fear because, you know, just think of yourself as growing in a generation where now you have cartels infiltrated, or, you know, and now it's different. But like back in the 80s, I grew up with the cartels being the bad guys. But when cartels infiltrate a government or a country, or they're part of who make the system, then what you have to do is, how would I say it? What you have to do is look for that income, you know, set up an income or set a capital aside. If you have to work 2 jobs, set up capital aside where you could, you know, first thing you want to do is from rental, try to become an owner. Whether the market is it's high or low, just become the owner, because you will always have choices to make after.
Why do you think that's important? You talked a little bit about it earlier. Why is real estate investment, meaning being just a homeowner is a real estate investment, by the way. Why is that important for the group that's renting right now?
Well, you're in Florida, and you are in a state that it's constantly growing. I mean, you have in South Florida the World Trade Center getting built there, and in Orlando you have industries or tourism industries that are just ready to expand. You know, so
there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, there's
here,
a lot
right?
of opportunity. There's find a spot that you could actually afford, whether it's a 1-bedroom apartment. I had customers that have bought 1-bedroom
like
mobile
a condo,
home
a mobile
and
home.
made them into a Airbnb, and they're cashing in. They're cashing from $3,000 to $4,000 a month. So
what do you say to people who want to do for sale by owner? I mean, I haven't prepped you with any of these questions, so I'm just asking. I'll give you my opinion in a minute, but what do you think? Like, can somebody really maneuver through this process without a real estate professional?
I would not advise it.
I have very educated, close friends.
Yes.
I don't care if I'm on the mortgage side of it or not. Please reconsider selling your home or buying a home without being represented by a real estate professional. You guys have to remember that that's a contract. I mean, this is a legitimate contract that you have nobody looking out for you.
You're binding yourself to your life to a contract.
I've got a friend that is doing it right now, and I just pray for that particular person and that particular person's family, because I couldn't convince them to use a real estate professional. They wanted to do it on their own. Listen, it is worth it's not even your money, so think about it. You still are going to be good, but what if you enter into a contract and you have no protection?
If you're a millennial, please hire a realtor. But if you are an experienced investor, always hire a realtor, because you already know to hire a realtor.
They already know, but I think a lot of times people have this misconception about how realtors make, you know, it's like a cash cow for them. Listen, if it was a cash cow for every realtor, we'd be seeing a lot of realtors in mansions all the time. I'm just letting you know that they make a good living, don't get me wrong, but they work super hard for it, and they're your advocate. They're protecting you. Yeah. So I want to encourage all of my friends who are trying to do this FSBO thing, for sale by owner, or they want to be the buyer without a representative.
Well, first of all, the only thing you're going to get is a lot of calls from realtors, so don't even go there.
Can you even imagine handling all those calls?
Just negotiate a contract, a leasing
agreement. Go with a professional. Yes. It's worth your time. Think about it. All right, and we're going to share all of Nikki's contact information, how you can reach out to her, how you can learn more about her story, because she's got a great story, how you can find out where she got this awesome hat. And you brought me, tell me the dessert or the meal, food that you brought me today.
Yes, I made you a majarete puertorriqueño.
I don't even know what that is, but it looks so good.
Majarete.
Tell them what it is.
Majarete is a coconut-based dessert. It's only made during the holidays. It's a 30 minute to 45-minute process. So, you know, if you're gonna get the recipe, just make sure you have time to do it.
So much for my diet.
And
Nikki.
I made my very own grandmother's recipe for Ted.
Oh, that was so sweet. You're gonna make me cry. All right, any parting words of wisdom for them? Anything you want to share before we head out?
Just, you know, in the process of reinvention, just make sure you make that decision. You make that decision to take the step forward, and surround yourself with the right people. Surround yourself with a good realtor, good lawyer if necessary. But surround yourself with people who are always going to empower you and always going to believe in you.
That's correct. So that's great. So get the toxicity out. That's my opinion. We want to get rid of that.
It's
2019,
a new year,
it's a new year.
Winter solstice.
That's right. Winter solstice is the 21st, shortest day of the year. And then finally we begin to get our light back in our lives, because this getting dark at 6 o'clock makes me sleepy at 6 o'clock. All right, you've been a joy to have on. Thank you so much. Thank you for the wonderful coconut thing that I'm about to go have a bite of. Thank you for the naughty and nice hat. You've been a joy.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So much. All right, we love you guys. We'll be back tomorrow. Mwah. See you soon.